Criticizing the American Sniper movie for its historical content might be a bit of a political quagmire, kind of like the Iraq War itself, but here goes nothing. Hey, Cypher here. I've kind of avoided this movie because it's so politically heavy. You've got people on the right who take anything negative as slander against America, and people on the left who get some sick sense of validation from any inaccuracies whatsoever. But browbeating aside, there's much to unravel here, and an historical inquiry is needed much more than all the rhetoric.
The book this film is based upon was penned by Chris Kyle himself, which is actually not a good thing. There have been huge problems with the book, quantified in exhaustive detail. He was definitely a liar, exaggerated his exploits, and brash in exposition. It was even subject of a defamation lawsuit. He was blatantly hateful towards Iraqis, and this is not a matter of opinion. In his own words, I couldn't give a flying fuck about the Iraqis. And he repeatedly calls them savages throughout the book. Clint Eastwood, the director, attempted to avoid some of those problems by omitting the contentious stuff, to varying degrees of success. With that faltering of a foundation, though, much can go wrong. The first and most iconic scene, with Kyle having to gun down a kid and his mother, and then being all broken up about it, is very different from the book. Kyle only shot a woman, and is completely unremorseful about it, using some, shall we say, discourteous language to describe her. This flies in the face of the whole inner turmoil depiction. Kyle never mentioned being cheated on. He did spend enough time partying to go into debt, but not like how the film makes it out to be. This could have been more true to life, but Eastwood probably thought it was easier to compress cinematic time. The whole reason for joining the military was not a sense of patriotic injustice, but more a realization of a childhood dream. He joined in 1999 at the age of 24, even though the movie calls him 30 for some odd reason. The movie also avoids talking about his injury and initial rejection from the Navy due to the pins in his arm. Chris and Taya Kyle's relationship is strangely different from the real deal. In most parts, it's for time compression, like the fact that their wedding wasn't interrupted by news of war, rather it was done on leave while training for said war, or that the phone call where she overheard the fighting did not take place when she was telling him the sex of their baby, but she does come off as a whiny prude who just gets in the way of his glory. Cinematic narratives necessarily cut stuff together, but her portrayal is rendered annoying by cutting together all the arguments rather than any kind of affection. No firefight happened because Kyle found a stash of weapons. This is an odd addition when they were cutting off so much of Kyle's life for this movie. Ryan Job, aka Biggles, was shot in the line of duty, but he didn't die then. He was discharged and died later of facial reconstruction surgery. That would deprive the plot of a central theme about Kyle seeking vengeance. Kyle never even faced off against Mustafa, nor did he re-enlist to avenge Biggles. In the movie, Kyle callously blames Mark Lee's death on his disillusion. Kyle's memoir paints himself as more sympathetic than that. For those who complain about this movie being too whitewashed and glorifying, here's an example of the opposite being true. Kyle did not become some sort of legend among the Iraqis. There was no $180K reward for killing him specifically, but there was a $20K reward for any sniper being killed whatsoever. They make a big deal out of Kyle becoming some sort of legend, but that is sort of incorrect, at least when it comes to the Iraqis. The butcher character that is shown in this movie is completely fictitious. He is there to give someone evil for Kyle to shoot at. The butcher could be based on Abu Dara, but that would be the screenwriter playing fast and loose with facts, to say the least. The climax with Mustafa being killed is a compilation of 3 separate events. Firstly, Mustafa was never encountered by Kyle. Another sniper killed that man. This 2100 meter long shot was achieved by Kyle, but against a dude shooting an RPG. And it did not lead up to some gigantic fight in front of an incoming dust storm. Long-distance shots like that are kind of hard to pinpoint, and Kyle was an expert sniper. This climax is exhilarating, but unrepresentative of anything Kyle ever experienced. Kyle did not leave the SEALs because he was overwrought by warfare. He did so for the sake of his marriage. In fact, he was never really emotionally hurt by his experiences in general, and actually fairly boastful of his exploits, to the point of outrageous lies. That reality is never shown for the sake of this whole moral anguish bull. We're so force-fed this whole PTSD thing that audiences can't understand how someone can be unaffected. I speak from experience when I say that people just assume PTSD affects anyone who's been in combat. That's another stupid Hollywood trope, and it needs to end.
You see, without all the rhetoric, this movie is just plain awful historically. It doesn't really live up to the source material and paints everybody as caricatures of themselves. I even saw one historian who gave it a D-, but I actually say that this movie just completely fails historically, because there is no part of this narrative that represents the truth.
So, thanks for watching. Tell me what other based on a true story movies need busting in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and check out some previous episodes. I'll see you next time.